Davin Sorrell woke at 3:14 a.m. to the specific sound of someone in his room who had not been there when he fell asleep. He was not a light sleeper by nature. 2 years at Keth's Crossing outpost had made him one. The outpost had the particular quality of the frontier installation. The infrastructure sounds that were normal and the infrastructure sounds that were not normal. And the specific, trained quality of someone who maintained the water filtration and the atmospheric processors, and who had learned, in the learning's practical way, to hear the difference between the system cycling and the system failing. This was neither. He opened his eyes. She was standing in the corner near the environmental control panel, tall, the specific height of the Varath, with the posture of someone who had been in the significant physical space for too long and who was, in the standing, present in the exhaustion with the full quality of someone who was still upright through the particular quality of the will rather than the body's comfort. Her clothing was the field configuration. Not the dress uniform, not the civilian clothes. The specific worn quality of the operational garment that had been in the field, and that was, in the having been, carrying the field's evidence with it. The dust of the Veth corridor's contested zone covered her left side with the particular chemical quality of the corridor's recent engagement. He could smell it from across the room, the specific, acrid character of the Veth corridor's environmental contamination, the residue that the corridor's third engagement had produced, and that had settled into her clothing and her skin with the complete quality of the full exposure. Her left arm had been field-dressed. The dressing had the specific improvised quality of the field dressing, functional but not the medical station's work. She was looking at him. He looked at her, 31 years old. Environmental Systems Technician, mid-level, Accord Outpost Designation Keth's Crossing. Not a soldier, not a diplomat, not the person whose name appeared in the strategic planning documents or the significant commendation records. The person who maintained the water filtration at the specific methodical quality the filtration required, and who kept the atmospheric processors running, and who was, in the keeping, present in the work with the complete quality of the honest function. He was also, in this particular moment, someone who had woken at 3:14 a.m. to find a Varath warrior in his room. He sat up. He did not reach for anything. He did not make any sudden movement. 2 years at Keth's Crossing had built the specific, practical quality of someone who understood that the sudden movement was the wrong movement in the uncertain situation. And the situation was, in its specific, complete quality, uncertain. She looked at him, he looked at her. She said in the Accord common language with the particular Varath accent that the Varath common language speakers carried. "Human, will you wash me?" He was very still. He had enough of the Varath cultural framework's knowledge. 2 years of the outpost's cross-cultural proximity had built the specific, functional knowledge of someone who had been in the proximity, and who had, in the being, accumulated the practical understanding. To know that the word she had used was not the word for the simple cleaning. The Varath language had 2 words that the Accord common language translated as wash. The first was the ordinary word, the practical daily functions word. The second was the ritual word. The specific, cultural weight of the second word was not the weight of the ordinary function. She had used the second word. He said, carefully, with the quality of someone who was in the uncertain situation, and who was, in the being, giving the uncertain situation the careful quality it deserved. "I need to understand what you're asking." She looked at him. The exhaustion was complete. The specific, total quality of someone who had been in the significant physical and psychological space for too long, and who was, in the looking, simply present in the exhaustion with the full quality of the genuine need underneath the complete quality of the exhaustion. She said, "I was in the Veth corridor, the third engagement. The ritual requires assistance I cannot provide alone, and I chose you." He looked at her, he looked at the field dressing on her arm. He looked at the Veth corridor's chemical dust on her left side. He said, "Why me?" She looked at him. "Because," she said, 14 months ago you found my junior officer unconscious in the Eastern Corridor and carried him to the medical station and filed no report and asked nothing in return." He was quiet, he remembered. Veth, young, couldn't have been more than 20 years old, the specific Varath youth's quality present in the face even in the unconscious state. Face down in the Eastern Corridor he checked the memory's honest record, approximately 2 am. He had been returning from the filtration system's emergency maintenance. He had found Veth. He had assessed the situation with the practical quality of the outpost's first aid training and the honest attention of someone who was reading the situation with the full quality of the honest reading. unconscious, breathing, no visible injury. The specific physical quality of the severe dehydration and the exhaustion combined, the particular, complete character of someone who had pushed past the body's honest requirements, and who was, in the having pushed, present in the consequence with the full quality of the consequence. He had carried him. The specific, careful quality of the carrying, the particular quality of someone who understood that the unconscious require the careful carrying, and who was, in the understanding, present in the carrying with the complete quality of the care. He had brought him to the medical station. He had filed nothing. He had filed nothing because the filing would have required the explanation of the Varath junior officer in the Eastern Corridor at 2 am. And the explanation would have required the institutional attention. And the institutional attention would have produced the questions that neither the junior officer nor anyone connected to the junior officer needed produced at 2 am in the Eastern Corridor. He had returned to the filtration system. He looked at her. "I didn't know he was yours," he said. "I know," she said. "That is why I chose you." He looked at her for a long moment, the 3:14 a.m. and the field dressing and the Veth corridor's chemical dust and the ritual word and the 14 months and the junior officer and the filing that hadn't happened. He got up. "Tell me what the ritual requires," he said. She told him. He listened with the complete quality of the full attention, the specific, methodical quality of someone who was receiving the information with the honest attention the information required, and who was, in the receiving, building the complete picture of the ritual's requirements with the full quality of the honest understanding. The post-battle cleansing in the Varath cultural framework was not the shower's practical function. He had known this in the general way. The 2 years of the outpost's cross-cultural proximity had built the general knowledge of the Varath ritual framework. He had not known the specific quality of this particular ritual, because the specific quality of this particular ritual was not the public knowledge. It was the personal knowledge, the specific, intimate cultural information that the Varath carried in the personal register rather than the institutional register. She gave it to him now in the personal register. The ritual was the transition, the specific, formal quality of the passage from the battle's space back into the civilian space. The Varath cultural framework understood the battle's space and the civilian space as the genuinely distinct states, not the metaphorical distinction, the specific, cultural reality of two different modes of being that required the formal mechanism of the transition between them. Without the ritual's transition, the warrior carried the battle's space into the civilian space with them. The specific, contaminating quality of the one bleeding into the other without the ritual's containing and completing function. The chemical dust of the Veth corridor was not merely the physical contamination. In the Varath understanding, it was the carrier, the specific, physical manifestation of the battle's residue that required the ritual's complete removal before the transition could be the genuine transition. The ritual required a witness, someone who held the water, someone who was present in the transition space with the full quality of the genuine presence. It could not be done alone. The Varath cultural framework's specific requirement. The witness's presence was not the optional element. The witness was the container, the particular human quality of the presence that made the transition space a genuine space, rather than the performed space of the solitary function. It could not be done with just anyone. She told him the specific requirements, not the ranked requirements, the safe requirements. The Varath cultural framework's witness requirement was not the high-ranking witness or the powerful witness or the witness whose institutional position gave the ritual the institutional weight. The witness requirement was the safe witness, the specific, honest quality of someone whose actions had demonstrated in the genuine record rather than the performed demonstration that they were the safe presence. Not powerful, safe. He was not powerful. He maintained the water filtration. He listened to the ritual sequence with the complete quality of the full attention, the water temperature, the specific order, the silence required in the ritual's first portion, the particular cultural quality of the silence as the ritual's container, the specific understanding that the witness's silence was not the passive absence of speech, but the active quality of the genuine holding presence. He did not ask why the silence. He did not ask again why him. He had heard the answer, the carrying, the filing that didn't happen, the not tasking. He understood the pattern. He set up the basin in the bathroom with the methodical quality of someone doing the function requires. The specific, practical quality of the environmental systems technician who understood the water systems. and who was, in the understanding, present in the setup with the complete quality of the honest function. He got the water temperature to what she had specified. He arranged the space with the particular, careful quality of someone who was giving the significant thing the significant space it required. She removed the field, dressing herself. He looked at the wound with the honest assessment of someone who had done the outpost's first aid training, and who was, in the looking, reading the wound with the practical quality of the honest reading. 3 centimeters. Clean edges, the corridor's equipment rather than a weapon, the specific mechanical quality of the operational injury rather than the combat injury. It had been cleaned in the field. The field cleaning was adequate. The wound would hold. He looked at it once. He said nothing. She nodded. The ritual began. He held the water. He was present. He did not speak. The silence had the specific, complete quality of the genuine silence, not the awkward silence, not the performed silence, the particular quality of someone who had been told that the silence was the container, and who was, in the being told, present in the silence with the full quality of the genuine holding. He was not uncomfortable. He was simply there, holding the water, present in the transition space with the complete quality of the genuine presence. Outside his small window, the Keth's crossing outpost continued its night function with the patient quality of the infrastructure doing what the infrastructure does at 3 am. The atmospheric processors cycling to the night setting, and the water filtration running its night cycle, and the systems simply present in the night with the complete quality of the functional ordinary. Inside the bathroom, something that was not the functional ordinary was happening. He held the water. He was present. The ritual concluded. She sat on the edge of his bed with the specific, exhausted quality of someone who had completed the significant thing, and who was, in the completing, present in the aftermath with the full quality of the aftermath's honest weight. Not the collapse, the particular earned quality of the exhausted sitting of someone who had been in the significant space, and who was, in the having been, now in the aftermath. He made tea, not because tea solved anything. Because the function of making something warm for someone who had just come through the significant thing was the honest function. The specific, practical quality of the ordinary care applied to the extraordinary moment, and he understood the ordinary care's honest value. She looked at the tea. She drank it. He sat across from her. The 3M quiet had the specific quality of the 3M quiet, the particular, complete stillness of the outpost at the night's deepest point. The specific character of the hour when the infrastructure's function was the only sound, and the human and the Varath sounds were both absent from the space. She said, 14 months ago. He looked at her. The Eastern Corridor, she said. I was watching the secondary monitor when you found him. He was quiet. You watched, he said. Yes, she said. I saw you assess the situation. I saw how you lifted him, the careful quality. She looked at the tea. I waited for the report. There was no report, he said. No, she said. I waited for the request, the favor. The particular quality of someone who had done the good thing, and who was, in the having done it, aware of the good thing's value. He looked at the tea. There was no request, he said. No, she said. You went back to the filtration. He looked at her. He needed carrying, he said. I carried him. Yes, she said. I know, that is what I watched you understand. He was quiet. And then, she said, I watched your record, 14 months. The specific accumulated quality of the consistent record, the same quality at the difficult moment and at the ordinary moment. The filtration systems maintained with the honest quality at noon. The junior officer carried with the honest quality at 2 am. She looked at him, the same quality. He looked at the tea. I just did what the situation required, he said. Yes, she said. I know, that is what 14 months of the watching produced as the finding. He looked at her. You came into the Veth Corridor's 3rd engagement, he said, knowing you might need the ritual afterward. Yes, she said, and knowing who you would go to, he said. Yes, she said. He looked at the tea. He looked at her. The ritual's witness requirement, he said. The safe presence, not the powerful presence. Yes, she said. You chose the water filtration technician, he said. I chose the person who carried Veth with the careful quality and asked nothing, she said. The position was not the relevant factor. He looked at her for a long moment. Is he all right, he said. Veth. She looked at him. Yes, she said. He is in the 2nd Corridor's support unit. He has been in the support unit for 11 months. Good, he said. She looked at him. You didn't know his name, she said. No, he said. I didn't ask. You didn't ask, she said. It wasn't necessary, he said. Carrying him didn't require knowing his name. She was quiet for a moment. No, she said, it didn't. The dawn came with the specific, gradual quality of Keth's crossing's morning cycle, the atmospheric processors shifting to the day configuration, and the light changing through the window, and the outpost's infrastructure moving from the night function to the day function, with the patient, mechanical quality of the systems doing what the systems do when the morning comes. She should leave before the day shift. She knew this, he knew this. Neither of them moved immediately. He looked at her arm. The dressing, he said, before you go. She looked at the arm. Yes, she said. He got the first aid kit from the third drawer. The specific, practiced quality of the outpost technician who knew what the third drawer contained, and who was, in the knowing, present in the getting with the complete quality of the familiar function. He brought it to the bed's edge. He sat beside her. He removed the field dressing. He looked at the wound with the honest assessment, the same honest assessment he had given it at the ritual's beginning. It had held through the night. The edges were clean. The specific practical quality of the wound that had received the adequate field treatment, and that was, in the having received it, present in the adequate condition. He applied the proper dressing with the methodical quality of the honest function, the specific, careful quality of someone who was doing the medical function with the complete quality the function required, not the hurried quality. The careful quality. She watched him work. She said, "You are not afraid of me." He considered this. He applied the dressing's second layer with the careful quality. "Should I be?" he said. "Most are," she said. He applied the final layer. "Most," he said, "probably haven't carried your junior officer through the eastern corridor at 2 am, and then spent the night holding water for the ritual." She looked at him, he looked at the dressing. "It will hold," he said. "The medical station should see it today, if you can manage it without the institutional questions." "I can manage it," she said. He looked at her. Something in the looking had changed, the specific underneath quality of something that had been in the exhausted warrior's quality throughout the night, and that was, in the dawn's light and the tea's conclusion and the fresh dressing and the not afraid quality, present now in the different quality. The something that the 3 am and the ritual and the tea and the 14 months and the eastern corridor and the wound dressing and the not afraid had built in the space between them. "Myra," she said. He looked at her. "My name," she said. Myra Sond. He understood what the name was. Not the institutional designation, the personal name, given in the personal register. The specific, significant quality of the Varath personal name offered outside the institutional context, in the honest space of the genuine exchange. "Davin," he said, "Davin Sorrel." She looked at him. "Davin," she said. His name and her voice had the specific quality of the Varath register giving the accord name the particular, complete quality of the genuine acknowledgement, not the institutional pronunciation, the personal register's quality. "Myra," he said. The outpost was waking outside the window. The day shift's first sounds. The infrastructure cycling. The ordinary morning of the Keth's crossing outpost present in the space with the full quality of the ordinary morning doing what the ordinary morning did. She stood, she moved to the door, she paused, she turned back. "The 4th engagement in the Veth corridor," she said. "It will be in 11 days. He looked at her. "And after the 4th engagement," she said, "if the ritual is required." "Yes," he said. She looked at him. "You don't know what I was going to say," she said. "You were going to ask if you could come back," he said. She looked at him for a long moment, the dawn light and the fresh dressing and the 2 cups of tea on the table and the first aid kit and the name exchanged in the honest spaces register. "Yes," she said. "Yes," he said. She left. He sat in the room with the first aid kit on the table and the 2 cups of tea and the dawn coming through the window and the outpost waking outside. 11 days, he looked at the 2 cups. He washed them with the specific, practical quality of the morning function, the ordinary care of the ordinary thing done with the complete quality of the honest attention. Then he went to the water filtration. The systems were cycling through the morning's first check. He ran the diagnostic with the methodical quality of the familiar function, the particular, practiced quality of someone who had done this diagnostic every morning for 2 years, and who was, in the doing, present in the function with the complete quality of the genuine engagement. The filtration was running clean. He noted it in the log. He stood at the filtration panel with the morning light coming through the outpost's narrow windows and the day shift arriving around him, and the ordinary function of the ordinary morning present in the space. Something had changed, not the filtration, not the diagnostic, not the morning light or the day shift or the log's notation. Something in the person running the diagnostic, the specific, quiet quality of someone who was doing the ordinary function, and who was, in the doing, present in the ordinary function with something that had not been there yesterday morning. Something that the 3am and the ritual and the water and the tea and the 14 months and the carrying and the name said in the honest spaces register had placed in the space. Not the dramatic change. The quiet one. 11 days. He ran the filtration check with the complete quality of the honest function. The log recorded, systems nominal. He thought 11 days. He went back to work.